Ouyang Seosun was not shaken by Ha-sein's words. Staring at Ha-sein, he was making his judgment based on his ability and experience. There was no doubt that this was a white fist. Ouyang Seosun thought it was simply impossible to be a black fist. Verbal attacks would not work on me. This punch was not provocative at all, and would never be a black fist. Ouyang Seosun did not even move, calmly watching Ha-sein's fist approaching. Like Ha-sein, he did not even try to block it with his hands, because he was confident that this was a white fist. Since Ha-sein did not really use his strength, his fist would stop when it got close to his face. Deep in his thoughts, Ouyang suddenly felt a soreness in his nose. And then he fell back involuntarily before he sat on the ground. How could it be a black fist? Ignoring his nosebleed, Ouyang looked blankly at Ha-sein. Ha-sein offered tissues to Ouyang, and said with a smile, "I told you so." Ouyang did not take the tissues, but wiped the blood off his nose and stood up. He said firmly, "Best of 9, that was just 1. Ha-sein smiled and put the tissues back. Standing opposite Ouyang, he said, "I'll continue then." Ouyang said nothing, staring at Ha-sein. He would not miss his slightest movements, which were the basis on which he would make his judgment. Once one used great strength, one's muscles would move. The key was to see through one's disguise. Ha-sein looked at Ouyang, who looked grim, pursed his lips and threw another punch. This time, Ouyang had seen clearly that although Ha-sein's muscles looked tightened, the direction of this punch would not be forward. Which meant this could not be a black fist. "This time you can't fool me." Ouyang stood firmly, raising his arms to block Ha-sein's fist. Although he had judged this fist to be white, Ouyang still raised his arms. It seemed that he had taken Ha-sein for a serious opponent, so he still prepared for the worst scenario when he was confident about his decision. Boom! Ha-sein's fist hit Ouyang on the arm. Ouyang's body shook but did not fall back. Ouyang was pale since Ha-sein's punch was still a black fist with enough strength. He was wrong, too, said Ha-sein with a smile. Ouyang looked at Ha-sein and was puzzled. Can he really hide his strength so well? Ouyang cast an odd look at Ha-sein. Black and white boxing was only a popular practice in martial arts. And the key was the yin and yang. There had only been matches of black and white boxing recently. Although it could not be regarded as the mainstream of martial arts, it was now quite popular. After all, it would make a great match to watch. Ouyang had participated in a lot of black and white boxing games and seen a lot of black and white boxing masters. A lot of people had mastered yin and yang forces, but whenever they throw a punch, he could still tell. Ouyang had rich experience and was particularly sensitive about his opponent's intentions, which was an advantage for him in black and white boxing games. Especially when he was the defensive side, the probability of his misjudgment was very low. Even if there were occasional mistakes, it would be because his opponent had used something he had never seen. And after he got familiar with it, it would not work anymore. But in the 2 rounds against Ha-sein, he had felt something different. From all his previous experience, that feeling was hard to describe. Ha-sein's moves were misleading not only because of the false appearance of his body, but because Ouyang felt that Ha-sein did not intend to hit him. There has to be flaws. If it is something unknown to me, I can always find out how it works. Once I do, he can no longer fool me. Ouyang calmed down and got ready. Again, Ouyang slowly spat out the word bang. Hossein threw a punch and Ouyang raised his arms. This time Hossein punched harder, but Ouyang could still stand still. You are very fit. Hossein regarded Ouyang, surprise. Although he still reserved his strength, Ouyang would not be able to block it with a fitness index below 13. Ouyang did not reply, because he lost again. Again, Ouyang was not discouraged. Hossein threw another punch, and the result was the same. Ouyang took another black fist. This time, Hossein deliberately weakened his strength, because he did not want people to know how good he actually was. To do well in black and white boxing was not just about strength, but also about fooling your opponent. 4. This is your last chance. Hossein looked at Ouyang and said, Go. Ouyang did not hesitate to say. Hossein threw another fierce punch at Ouyang. It was as fast as a bullet. Suddenly, Ouyang moved away and dodged Hossein's fist. At this critical time, Ouyang did not insist on his own judgment and tried to block, but chose to dodge. Since whenever I think you were using a white fist, you used a black one. Then if I act counterintuitively, I could beat you, Ouyang said with a smile of self-confidence. But very soon, Ouyang's smile froze.